I have a lot of credenzas that I haven't read. A lot of credenzas, because the gaze office is where we basically stopped. We still have all of Urban Nightmare we have to get through, which is a lot. And we have a ton of Star of the City stuff we have to get through, including the Red Mist, which people are really, really excited about me reading. But I can't do that yet. I'm sorry. I have to go through the gaze office. I have to learn all of the prerequisites before I get to the exciting part. Unfortunate. But I do think that there are going to be some pretty cool things in here, because I've already skimmed ahead a little bit. I didn't read ahead, but I skimmed, and I saw a Kane office. I'm like, oh, we just met the Kane office. So it's actually, maybe it's beneficial now that we're going through it, because I've already been introduced to a lot of the players that are going to be in these credenzas. Anyway, enough of that. Let's start reading Alex's page. Kane office is a notary public office that officially administers various matters when a contract is made between two offices, which we already talked about before. Contracts are made, and those contracts are upheld. Again, I'm not sure what the legal precedence in the city is for upholding certain contracts, or whether or not they can be voided if someone's strong enough. We've seen that they can definitely be upheld if someone's strong enough, like Blue, or Pluto, who has a special ability, but I don't know specifically what's going on with this, so maybe it'll tell us. A notary public office preserves evidence involved in contractual processes and certifies legal issues. Sometimes the office may play the role of a broker. So are they the ones then that enforce the certificate or the contract that they help them sign? Because a notary public, they're the ones that have like the stamp that says, yes, this is a legally binding contract. I am witnessing that this is being done the right way. Anyway, moving on. When you work with the Kane office, the process you have to follow will usually be simple outside of a few special cases. All you need to do is make a summary of all the details for the deal you're making and visit the office. And don't forget to take all the relevant documents with you. Notarial deed of promissory note, migration permit for the nest or the Backstreets of District 0, deed of forward contract, and everything else related to the deal. If you safely finished your business with the Kane office, those documents will become powerful pieces of evidence that'll protect you in case a dispute breaks out for whatever reason. That's kind of cool, I guess. It makes sense to me that they would have to have something legally in place to enforce these contracts, because otherwise the stronger person will just be like, nope, didn't happen. You can't prove it. I'll just off you. There's got to be a way to stop that from happening, whether or not it's magic or like some sort of legal binding that they have. What kind of repercussions for breaking these contracts there are, I don't know. I'm hoping maybe we'll figure that one out. I know what happens if you break a Blue contract, but I don't think people are being filleted alive because they broke contracts normally. I would assume there are other ways that they're being punished. But I don't know, the city's a weird place, maybe not. Maybe that's standard protocol. What does Dalek's page say? The nest is a home where birds brew their eggs. They use their wings to devotedly protect their eggs from outside threat. Such is the role of the nests and wings that constitute the city. Do the eggs represent people inhabiting the nest then? No, not a chance. These eggs are the treasures that wings possess. Singularities, technologies that make money. Featured in countless patents. Its residents are nothing more than feathers of the wings that serve to protect the eggs. A wing will end up falling when it loses too many of its feathers, but it won't bother to desperately protect all of its feathers, since a feather or two will naturally grow back. They're basically expendables, so they're not going to protect all of the people. That doesn't matter. They can always replace them. As long as the wing doesn't fall, and the nest doesn't fall, it's still a much better place for people to live. And if people are working at the corporation and living in the nest, they will be more apt to protect the corporation because they think that's a much better place to live than the Backstreets. I have this cushy job, this awesome house, and this protection. Yeah, I might not always be protected. There are some people who come up missing. some people who die on the job, but it's much better than living in District 23 where sweepers come through quite regularly and eat people. So, with that in mind, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that the wing is protected, that nobody's getting their hands on like super secret stuff, because then the wing will fall and I will die. So they basically have tricked these people. I guess that it is a metaphor of life, isn't it? But it feels so it feels so icky. I don't know why. But it is mutually beneficial to both sides though. So maybe it's not necessarily that bad, because it is much better than the Backstreets. So they do get something from it. Yeah, okay. It's not that bad. I feel like there's better ways to do it, but I really don't have an answer for what would be a better solution. Because in order for power and this hierarchy system that's already established to make sense, there has to be the haves and the have-nots. To use a term I think I remember from history class, I might be wrong. It's been a while, and I didn't really pay attention to begin with, but yeah, there has to be those who have things and people who don't have things for that hierarchy system to be set up. Because if everyone's on the same level, then they're just going to be attacking one another, trying to get above each other, because that's just human nature, unfortunately. So they set up this hierarchy system in the city to try to solve that problem. But that means there are people who are important and know important secrets, and they need protected because they're the ones that have the most power. But without the people beneath them, too, then no one's holding up those people with more power. So everyone is important. It's all about how quickly you can turn over people with power and people without power, and whether or not there's enough of them to sustain this system. Which also tells me that one possible other reason why the city is so compact and it hasn't worked hard to expand out its borders is it wants to keep the city really dense. I'm sure that there's other issues too, like outside in, I don't know, the Badlands or whatever it is out there. The nothingness, no man's land. I'm sure that it's bad out there. But I'm also pretty positive with all the tech that they have, they could make it pretty livable. They could expand the border of the city. This density of population is by design. And I think its design is to make it so there aren't enough positions for everyone, so it becomes sought after. Since there's lower supply of really good jobs, there's higher demand for it. And that percentage, I think, is really important, because then people feel like, oh, this is something that is really rare. This is something that is hard to come by. This is something that if I have the opportunity to jump at this, I have to do it, because otherwise it will pass me by and someone else will take it. And that is artificial. I think they could have made this a lot better place, and they choose not to do that in order to set up this hierarchy and in order to hold people down and like keep them down. I mean, I know, again, it's all about like how many actual resources are available, whether or not you can expand out the city successfully and be able to support the infrastructure of it, and like there's a lot that goes into it. But it almost feels like this is purposeful, and it probably is. Anyway, I'm just going to keep going. The 26 wings have their own subsets of culture. It might be the personal preference of the wing's founder or the influence of the singularity, but the cultural styles and social atmosphere vary vastly between the nests. The wing's policies also determine the culture of the Backstreets that belong to it. Each wing has district sets of conducts. Some wings take a relatively cooperative approach to their Backstreets, while others thoroughly exploit them. But wings will be wings, after all. Corporation is just a fancy expression for taking advantage of the Backstreets when the wing needs them. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? If you can't afford to enter a wing and have to live in the Backstreets, you're best off settling in the district that suits you well. You'll still need a home and source of income, of course. So different areas have different cultures, which is pretty cool. Obviously, the culture around L Corp was all focused on emotions? What kind of culture did they have? That would be pretty cool to kind of see the certain cultures in the different districts. Anyway, what does Bono say? People are hung up on money, but it's not just because they want to be well off. The formidable tax burden is a big part of why. There's a huge, tax too? In a city where everything is formed around money, obviously the government running the city would also need money. But what do they do? Do they provide... there's a big reason why a country requires taxes. They have to sustain infrastructure. They have to provide goods and services for its people. They have to maintain order in some way. And a lot of that is government-funded things. How many government-funded things does a city have? No matter how humble your job is, you're still obliged to pay your duties if you earn money. It goes for every type of business transaction. Even syndicates are no exception. Anyone living in the city has to pay taxes. If you don't meet the deadline, you'll get a warning. For the first 3 offenses, you'll get a notice of warning and no other penalty. But if you don't pay your taxes for the 4th time, then you're dead meat. They'll come for you. The eye will seek out tax evaders by any means, and the person it sends will rip those poor cheats to shreds. Maybe that's why they sent Binna after us. It's kind of like, was it Al Capone? One of the big mobsters way back in the day. They didn't get them on all the illegal things that they did because they couldn't prove it. So instead, they got them because they didn't pay taxes on all of the illegal money that they had. They couldn't prove where that money was coming from, but they couldn't get them to admit that that was illegal money. So instead, you have all of this money. Why aren't you paying taxes on it? So if they would have just paid taxes on it, they wouldn't have had a way to lock them up. That boggles my mind. Oh no, illegal things, fine. Go ahead, we can't prove it. But if you're not paying taxes, they'll get you. What the heck? That's sort of what this city reminds me of too. I'm assuming that probably because maybe some of the more centralized, A, B, C, D corporations are reliant probably on running on taxes. If I had to assume, that's probably what is going on. They don't make money other ways because they probably don't have a singularity that they can monetize, but they do have a singularity that helps them control the city. So they just take taxes to keep themselves in power and running. That's the only thing I'm thinking. Because are they filling potholes? Are they going out digging ditches or, I don't know, handling water runoff? Making a big dam, that way they can generate electricity for the city or something? What is the money going towards? It'd be so cool to see that kind of stuff. I love how well thought out the city and the world is for lobotomy and library and Limbus. But there's things that I really, really want to know that probably most people aren't that curious about. But it's the everyday stuff that I find in the credenza. I had no idea taxation was happening. So now I really want to know, where's that money going? That would be so cool to see. And again, we know there's happy things that happen in the city too. Marriages, births. I'm sure that there's playgrounds and stuff where people can go and enjoy themselves. And we don't get to see that kind of stuff. I want to see the everyday. I want to see the boring and the mundane. See how these people actually live. That way I can enjoy the craziness of the people we are seeing even more. Because if everyone's nuts, like Blue, then it doesn't make sense for Roland to call him crazy. If everyone loves the sword and trains the sword every single day, then it doesn't make sense for us to be pulling in all the people we're pulling in, except that they are influenced by the light. We could just be pulling in some randos that have never fought before in their whole life. If there are people out there that aren't training the sword, that would be completely different. It would change my perspective on the story. then we're purposely bringing in these people because the city focuses on death and destruction, focuses on fixers who do these things. And the fixers are the people who dream because it's the one outlet that they actually have to achieve their dreams. Then that makes sense. But if we're pulling in people who are really, really good of sources of light, why is it always just the dangerous people? Are you telling me there's no scientists out in the wings that we can't yank? Because obviously they have determination and will too. A lot of them, similar to A and B and Carmen, a lot of them would give their lives, and they have the will and the determination and the skills to be really, really good at what they're researching and what they're doing. I mean, why aren't we pulling people like that? Why don't they support the light like all these people who are fighting do? Or do we just not see it because Roland doesn't have to go and welcome them? Angela can just snap her fingers and they pop into books because they can't fight. That would be something I would want to know too. I want to know what is happening. Like all of the little details in the background. What is happening? Anyway, I've gone off on tangents too much. Let's go back to it. Sayos page. The hand of the Backstreets is possibly the biggest reason no one dares to take care of the lawless land that is the Backstreets. No associations or wings can touch it, and not even the head itself can easily interfere. The 5 syndicates at the apex of the Backstreets are called the Thumb, the Index, the Middle, the Ring, and the Pinky, namely. They parcel out districts of the Backstreets and comprehensively manage their territories, and periodically hold meetings to efficiently control the Backstreets. They call this conference the Finger Bow Bell. Oh. Here I was under the assumption that the Bow Bell was like a war between 2 fingers. But it's actually a conference. So there's one coming up. That's what everyone has been talking about. You're going to be really in trouble when the Bow Bell comes up. Why? Why? Do they actually say, hey, you two been fighting, you got to knock that off. Otherwise, the other 3 of us are going to come and smack you around and tell you, move back into your regular districts. I'm confused as why the Bow Bell... This feels a lot like the meeting of, I guess, some pretty major powers. So maybe they will say, hey, listen, we understand that the 2 of you have made some progress toward the L nest. Since it fell, it was up for grabs. Whoever has the majority of it right now, you claim it. The other one will back up and back out of there. They'll have to retreat and give it to the other person. That way, we're not offing ourselves and making ourselves big targets for the head or any of the other wings. Because if they weaken themselves too much by fighting amongst each other, all that's going to do is make them big targets. I'm assuming that one syndicate is probably the same power as like a high tier wing. Maybe even the rabbits. But it feels like even all 5 of them together... No, again, I haven't fought the actual heads of any of these places yet. So maybe I'm a little off here. But it feels like even all of them together couldn't stand against any of the claw. You send a few, maybe 50 Binnas in at full strength, and I think that they could probably wipe out all of the hand. Again, I don't know yet. I'm probably only just barely scraping the surface of the actual strength of the hand. But it feels like the stronger I'm getting, the more I'm seeing, like, okay, I see a huge gap between Finn and now the top of the hand. But the top of the hand compared to my red mist or my Binna, it just feels like we're so overpowered compared to them. Like the gap there is just massive too, and we're just someone with that kind of strength, the strength of a color or an arbiter, would just be insanely strong and could probably go in and wipe out at least part, if not an entire syndicate all by their lonesome. So I think it's only by banding together as one single unit with 5 separate fingers can the hand actually operate the way they do. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And the only reason that they are able to do that is because the heads of each of the fingers are so strong or so well protected that everyone would notice people coming up missing by the time that someone actually got to one of them, let alone all of them. So the rest of them can like band together and fight back. I think that's the only thing protecting them is just their numbers. Anyway, let's see what else it said. I'm uncertain as to whether this name is meant to suggest that they actually make pinky swears not to invade each other's territories, or if they call it as such simply because the fingers gather in one place. The mind of higher-ups is a mystery, truly. Going back to the topic, when the finger bow bell nears, all members of the 5 fingers will try to avoid conflict and refrain from causing big problems. It's thanks to the leaders of each syndicate who caution their subordinates that fights between smaller syndicates could grow into a massive conflict between the big ones, perhaps. If subsidiary syndicates ran into trouble, the seniors at the finger bow bell would be faced with quite the embarrassment, now wouldn't they? So what's going on? What's different? What's different now? One's coming up, and yet they're still fighting over L Corp. Is it because territory like this is so hard to come by, they're willing to risk it? Maybe that's what has stopped all of these heads from coming and dealing with us directly, because they're busy trying to prepare for this thing. It might have been just perfect timing. Is that what's protecting us? Just perfect timing? Oh, God. I've got some pretty crappy luck. I don't know how long this perfect timing's going to hang on, if that's the case. What does Yang have to say? There are 2 kinds of folks who hang around in the backstreets at night, the predator and the prey. Pretty much everything going on in the city can be described as savage. That's an understatement from what I've seen, and I'm assuming it only gets worse from there. But the other parts of the city at least put up the effort to package them into gentlemanly guises. Even a cheap hamburger made from whatever unspeakable ingredients is still wrapped in a modern and rich packing. Yeah? On the other hand, the back streets at night are filled with raw and blatant barbarity. Not even a layer of crude cover is there to censor this brutality. No deed is forbidden. No one is held responsible. Imagining the most appalling, vulgar, and filthy deed you can think of. I won't dare say beyond your imagination, since I have no idea how insane you might be. I mean, I'm pretty insane, but I really don't think about vulgar and filthy things like this. But I can guarantee that whatever you're thinking casually happens somewhere in the dark alleys of the backstreets at night. Despite all that, people still inhabit the backstreets. They doggedly struggle and survive in their own ways here. I couldn't imagine a place like that. I couldn't do it. I don't think I could imagine a place where anything that you could possibly imagine is going on currently. Of course, not all solutions can just be outworked. That's probably really silly of me to even think that you could work hard enough and be desperate enough to get out of there. I would probably turn into a distortion. It's probably what would happen. I would be so freaked out like Philip, just trying my best to get the heck out of here as fast as I could, that I would lose touch with myself. That's probably exactly what would happen. And it would happen at the most opportune time. I would just be getting out of the back streets, and I'd be moving into some place which is kind of nicer. And it would be in that moment where I'm celebrating that I would turn into a distortion and just wreck everything. That's what kind of crappy luck I have. Anyway, moving on. Jin says, a fallen nest no longer has an owner to protect its inhabitants. What happens to them then? In the wreckage of the nest that's gradually turned into an environment similar to the backstreets, all they can do is accept horrible deaths as backstreets residents do or hire a fixer, or pay protection fees to one of the powerful syndicates that enter the nest and be under their care. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. This is probably like the best time of the year for people in the Backstreets, especially all the crazy ones, because they've dealt with all of the other Backstreet people who are used to this kind of thing. So, I mean, if you're looking to attack someone and you see, oh, this is other Backstreet person who has their guard up and knows what's about to happen. So obviously they're not going to fall for it. And you're like, darn, I was trying real hard to be sneaky. And then all of a sudden you turn and you look at someone from the nest and they're not used to watching their back and knowing that they're going to get stabbed. You're like, wow, this is almost too easy. So I can only imagine that this would be like a holiday for certain people, like Pierre. But Jin continues, some move to a different wing, but this is an exceptionally rare case. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Why don't they move? The syndicate may charge ridiculously expensive fees, but they will keep you safe for sure once you pay them. If an even stronger syndicate comes in, drives off the others, and asks you to pay a protection fee, then there's no choice but to give your new protectors what they ask for. They'll protect you with their lives as long as you still have money to pay. The assets will become useless when you die anyhow, so you might as well spend it to extend your life for just a little longer. The former feathers don't have a choice in this matter. If they don't pay the fee, they'll die or get kicked out. It would be a miracle to walk out unharmed. Yeah, okay, so it's a pretty bad spot. So they can't really move. They can't really protect themselves because they're not strong enough and haven't had a really rough life to train them to be better at fighting and things like that. Kind of like all the Backstreet residents have had to survive. And necessity just makes you stronger sometimes. So the loss of a nest really is so detrimental to the people there because they don't know what to do. What's kind of interesting to me is still the idea of how these corporations can go belly up. Like, are they mismanaged? Is it because their technology gets leaked? Because I know that it basically said that some of the times the singularity gets let out, and because the singularity is no longer a viable moneymaker, then it collapses. But these are being protected with dear life by everyone. So how often does that happen? Like, how often do corporations collapse? How often do nests collapse? How often do districts change? Again, a lot of things that I probably won't ever have an answer to, but it's just kind of curious to think about. Okay, what did the henchman have to say now? You hear that news? We're about to collide with kingfishers again. Kingfishers? Don't remember that name at all. Were they a real thing? You know, the syndicate that's been struggling with finance and feuds between members recently. They seem to be getting back on their feet after raiding the Constellars? Oh, that must be another office or whatever. But it looks like that didn't last long. They were irrelevant chumps, so I completely forgot about them. The knots seem to be after them. Maybe they finally hit them. Weaklings will get hounded. And now they've been trying to invade our territory, desperate to loot anything. Doesn't matter, their names wouldn't be so unmemorable if they were any strong. Taking them down shouldn't be a problem. And the fixers at Clam office that were cooperating with them from the back are gone too. Clam? What are they about? I don't know. There's so many different weird names for all these different offices. But I can only imagine that there's probably like hundreds of thousands of offices. So you can only come up with really cool names every so often, I guess. Meows page! Hee-haw, doodle-doo, woof, and me. The four of us were moved to the core by the pianist's performance. To recreate the performance half as splendid as what we heard that day, we formed the musicians of Bremen. To study the music, we tried flicking strings here and there, playing music while sitting, on our backs, and even while handstanding. Cool. We still couldn't come close to the pianist level, but we managed to make our own brand of music, something that only the musicians of Bremen can play. Our performance was actually pretty fantastic, you know. Sadly, our time didn't last long. One day, a mysterious person approached us and asked us to join his ensemble and perform with him. Woof, Doodle-Doo, and Hee-Haw took the offer and left with that guy. I had to stay because of new members that had just joined our band, though. Yep, Moo Moo and Oink. It's kinda uncomfortable just to leave them behind, you know? We can't let them mess around and taint our name either. I've been practicing with them to create a performance that could get a standing ovation once my old bandmates come back. But at their current level of skills, the three would just cluck at these newbies' performance and go back to whatever they were doing. Okay, here's another really cool idea, right? So we know meow is not a distortion. Was Hee-Haw, Doodle-Doo, and Woof also not a distortion? Prior to going off with this strange person that's obviously Blue and Pluto and getting transformed into a distortion, not just three distinct distortions, but one individual distortion fused together? Because we saw them. They're one distortion now. 3 heads all fused together. Were they like that before? Were they actually Bremen? Or did they become Bremen when they transformed and fused Woof, Doodle-Doo, and Hee-Haw all together? There's another cool question I would love to have the answer for, but I'm sure these other two, because they came later, wouldn't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they'll say something like, oh, they were 3 different people, but I've heard that they've fused together lately. Moo Moo says, they say the Backstreets are nigh inhabitable hellscape, but the people here live on somehow. There's lots of people who live in fear every moment, but the others live a pretty normal life. Some think the Backstreets are totally shady and poorly aged slums, but we do have all the amenities we need here. For one, the supermarkets, Oink likes, aren't as good as those in the Nest, but it's got everything people need. Clothing stores, groceries, dry cleaners, etc. I heard the details are different for each district, so there is that. I'm just telling you how things are where I live. People here aren't too unkind to each other. Those Nest dwellers like to gossip about how we're cruel and dreary and all that. But the truth is, we're doing just fine. Oh, and there's tons of good restaurants here. It's the street of flavor after all. Freshly baked meat pies, spaghetti made of special pasta. Your tongue and stomach have a wonderful time if you ever go on a trip to our district. Okay, I'm good. For a second, I was doing just fine until I remembered what all the meat is. And then it kind of hit me all at once. And Roland is a notorious foodie. How many people has Roland eaten? We used to hand over the leftovers from our performance here to local restaurants. That meat would go to waste if we left it on the spot. So we might as well give it to the people who can make good use of it. Ain't that right? When Woof, Doodle-Doo, and Hee-Haw were around, we got enough chow to share with several eateries. But our find was half since they were gone, and Oink kept making silly mistakes with it and ruined those ingredients too often. So we quit that biz altogether, which is a tad bit unfortunate. We sometimes got tasty meals for free when we gave them our meat. It's all your fault, Oink! You could have totally not made those mistakes and they would be getting free food all the time. Oink says the Seven Association is a fixer association specializing in investigation and intelligence, and it's knowledgeable in pretty much every affair that takes place in the city. Have I seen the Seven? I must have, right? I vaguely remember that. I don't know, maybe I haven't. Anyway, details about a syndicate gaining infamy in the backstreets of some place. The association probably knows what district it is exactly, but I left before I checked the details of it. All the information revealed about the distortion phenomenon, which has been going on around lately, when and where fixer offices start up, and close businesses And the beat goes on. The association treats all kinds of information about the city. Oh, they don't have access to top secret intels like the secrets of the singularities. Each nest holds, obviously speaking, but when they solve cases, they usually cooperate with other associations, like the Shi and the Liu. If you ask how the Seven Association can secure its confidentiality, despite holding lots of juicy info that could attract the many, it's likely because its staff aren't bad combatants by any means. They don't use fancy but crude workshop weapons that are basically large amalgamations of various technologies. Regular informants are armed with nothing more than a simple bladed tool. It sounds very underwhelming, judging from the weapon alone, but they use the minimum technique with pinpoint precision to take down their foes. Wait, is that Dante's place? Hold on. Dante, would you be in here? Swear to God, it might be Dante who is in the 7. Are you in the 7? 7 Association! Yeah, I thought I remember something like that. Okay, back to where I was before. There was Meow's page, Moo-Moo's page, We Read Oink's page. Now for the Wedge Association. Oh yeah, this is Oscar. Oh, and he's going to talk about the 8 o'clock circus in the next episode. So thank you so much for watching this one. Take care and goodbye.